It started with a pink slip taped to my door like some kind of HOA scarlet letter. Notice of violation, excessive noise after 9 p.m. Now, I live alone. No pets. No parties. Just me, my Netflix, and a barely functioning air fryer. So you can imagine my confusion when I peeled that slip off and read that I'd disturbed the peace with loud music and commotion. Enter Karen. Not just any Karen, HOA President Karen Whitmore. She's got the classic uniform, chunky beige visor, clipboard, orthopedic shoes that double as speed bumps, and the most powerful weapon of all, an inflated sense of authority. She strutted down my walkway that evening, completely uninvited, and gave my door 3 loud knocks. I opened it, and she didn't even say hello. "You've been warned," she said, holding up her clipboard like a police badge. "Next time, it's a $200 fine." "For what? I'm not even loud." Karen smirked. "That's not what my ears heard." I blinked. "Your ears." She leaned in with this creepy whisper like we were in some kind of HOA horror movie. "Walls are thin. I hear everything." I didn't even argue. I just closed the door mid-sentence while she was rambling about the HOA bylaws. But guess what? 3 days later, another notice. $200 fine. I called the HOA office and asked for evidence. Recordings, complaints from other neighbors, anything. But nope. Karen was the only witness, and according to her, that's all they needed. Apparently, she's judge, jury, and neighborhood executioner. Things escalated fast. She started leaving multiple notices a week. Noise complaint. Trash bins out too early. Car parked too close to the curb. At one point, she fined me for a suspicious humming sound. I knew I needed help, and that's when I called Nathaniel Blake, lawyer, friend, an absolute legal beast. He once got a raccoon declared a tenant in a rent control case. I explained everything, and he got this grin like he'd just spotted a typo in the Constitution. "She's targeting you. Harassment," he said. "Let's play." Nathaniel didn't waste time. Within 24 hours, he had drafted a formal letter to the HOA demanding all documentation regarding the noise complaints against me, including timestamps, witness names, and decibel readings. He CC'd Karen, the HOA board, and for good measure, our local councilwoman. Karen responded within 2 hours. Not with documents. With another fine. Refusal to cooperate with HOA authority, $300. Nathaniel laughed so hard when he read that, he snorted his coffee. "Oh, she's good," he said, "but not good enough." While he got the legal wheels turning, I got sneaky. I installed a motion-activated camera on my porch and audio recorders inside my house. I even downloaded an app that measured decibel levels in real time. For the next week, I kept things quieter than a library at midnight. No music, no movies, just me, headphones, and a newfound appreciation for silence. And like clockwork, the notices still came in. Tuesday, shouting from windows, $150 fine. Thursday, repetitive drumming noises, $200 fine. Sunday, sounded like a rave, $250 fine. I was starting to wonder if Karen was just making up imaginary parties to entertain herself. Then came the HOA meeting. Karen didn't know Nathaniel was coming, or that he'd show up in a tailored suit with a 3-inch binder labeled "Evidence of Harassment and HOA Misconduct, Whitmore versus Resident." We sat in the back as Karen stood at the front, rambling about community values and how certain residents didn't respect the peace. That's when Nathaniel stood up and said, loud enough to make her freeze mid-sentence, "Interesting claims, Mrs. Whitmore. Shall we review your proof of these violations?" Karen blinked. "This is an HOA matter, sir, and only board members." Nathaniel cut her off. "Actually, as the legal representative of Mr. Reyes, I have every right to question the legitimacy of these fines. Especially since we have audio and video recordings proving there was no noise at the times in question. You could feel the oxygen get sucked out of the room." He clicked a remote and brought up a video. It showed my apartment, Lights off. Absolute silence. Timestamped. Then, another video Karen herself sneaking around my yard, peeking through bushes with a flashlight, holding her phone up to my window like she was ghost hunting. Murmurs exploded around the room. One of the board members leaned forward and asked, "Karen, were you recording him without permission?" She stammered. "It was. Community safety." Nathaniel smiled. "According to state law, that's a violation of privacy. And combined with the fabricated reports, we're looking at defamation, harassment, and abuse of position." Karen went pale. But Nathaniel wasn't done. He dropped the final blow. "We'll be filing a formal complaint to dissolve this HOA's leadership and pursue damages unless we receive a full retraction of the fines, an apology, and assurance that Mrs. Whitmore immediately steps down from her position." The room fell silent. Ironically, for the first time in weeks, Karen had nothing to say. After Nathaniel's takedown at the HOA meeting, you'd think Karen would finally retreat to her beige lair and leave me alone. But no, this is Karen we're talking about. 2 days later, I found another notice taped to my door, this one printed on bright red paper like it was some kind of final boss level warning. HOA sanctions pending. Formal hearing scheduled due to residents' hostile behavior toward board president. Hostile? I hadn't even spoken a word to her since the HOA meeting. Unless Karen had added being defended by a competent lawyer to the hostile behavior list. I called Nathaniel and read it to him. He just sighed. "She's panicking. Probably trying to save face with the board." I say, "We show up to that hearing and bring reinforcements." So we did. The hearing was held at the community clubhouse. Normally used for yoga and potlucks, it had been transformed into a courtroom drama set. HOA board members sat behind a plastic fold-out table like Supreme Court justices. Karen sat in the center, smug, wearing a power scarf and holding a folder that looked like it belonged in a second-grade diorama. She opened with this theatrical monologue about respect, entitlement, and maintaining order in a world of chaos. I almost applauded when she said civility is the heartbeat of community. Despite the fact she once fined a kid for sidewalk chalk art. Nathaniel stood. "Board members, thank you for your time. Let's clarify a few things." He passed out folders with our evidence, timestamps, audio logs, security footage, a notarized affidavit from my neighbor confirming no noise was heard during any alleged violations. Karen's face got tighter with every passing page. Then Nathaniel said, "We'd also like to introduce new evidence." He pulled out a USB drive. On it, Karen's voice, recorded from her own front porch, complaining to her friend about how she was teaching that little brat a lesson and how no one tells me no in my neighborhood. She had no clue one of her own neighbors had caught her bragging through an open window and sent it to us anonymously. Karen turned crimson. "That's out of context." Nathaniel leaned in. "Would you like us to subpoena the full recording? Or share it with the local press? The choice is yours." The board went quiet. Then, finally, one of them, a gray-haired woman named Doris, who I thought was just there for the snacks, spoke up. "I move that all fines against Mr. Reyes be revoked, effective immediately. And furthermore, I motion to suspend Karen Whitmore from her position as HOA president pending review." Karen shot out of her seat. "You can't do that. I am the HOA." "No, dear," Doris said sweetly. "You were." The vote passed. Karen stormed out, muttering about legal action, conspiracies, and keyboard warrior lawyers. Nathaniel and I just stood there, watching her beige visor wobble off into the sunset. But we weren't done yet, because the next step wasn't just clearing my name. It was making sure Karen went fully silent legally. So, Karen lost her HOA crown, but that didn't stop her from going full drama queen on social media. She took to the neighborhood Facebook group, the Whispering Pines Watchdogs, and started blasting me in posts so passive-aggressive they came with their own eye-roll soundtrack. Some people move in and think rules don't apply to them. When you let lawyers do your talking, it's because you have something to hide. Not everyone values peace and quiet. Some of us still care about this community. Every post was dripping with condescension and coded digs at yours truly. And just in case there was any doubt who she was talking about, she tagged me in one where she accidentally posted a screenshot of our HOA hearing agenda with my name underlined in red. So, yeah, the gloves were off. And Karen still hadn't learned. I called Nathaniel again. This woman doesn't stop, I said. He didn't even hesitate. Defamation. Harassment. Retaliation. Time to take the gloves off for real. He filed for a restraining order, but not the usual kind. A civil anti-harassment order specifically aimed at online harassment, stalking, and abuse of authority. We were now officially done playing nice. The hearing for the order was set for the following week. Karen showed up with a new look a red power suit, oversized sunglasses indoors, and some poor excuse for a lawyer who looked like he got lost on his way to small claims court. The judge, an older man who looked like he'd seen every petty neighborhood feud in the county, asked Nathaniel to present our evidence. He laid it out like a Netflix docuseries. Copies of Karen's social media posts. Screen recordings of her tagging me. Statements from neighbors who'd also received harassment in the past. A timeline showing she issued 12 fines to me in 18 days with zero legitimate evidence. And finally, the audio recording of her bragging about targeting me. Then Karen's lawyer stood up, shrugged, and said, "This is all a misunderstanding between two passionate community members." Karen followed it up with crocodile tears. "I just care so deeply about the standards of this neighborhood. I never meant harm." The judge blinked. "Ma'am, you fined him for a humming sound." Silence. Then he leaned forward. "I'm granting the petition. Effective immediately, Ms. Whitmore, you are to cease all contact, digital or in person, with Mr. Reyes. You are prohibited from referencing him online, posting photos, or involving yourself in any HOA matters pertaining to his residence." Karen gasped. "You can't silence me." The judge raised an eyebrow. "I just did." Boom. Court adjourned. Outside the courthouse, Karen tried to storm past me. Nathaniel, always calm, simply said, "Careful, Ms. Whitmore." The ink's still wet on that order. She hissed like a deflated balloon and marched off to her car. I went home that night to a peaceful porch, no pink slips on my door, and for the first time in weeks, no phantom noise complaints. Just the hum of justice doing its thing. But the best part? Nathaniel had one last surprise. "I've filed a formal complaint with the state's HOA regulatory board," he said. "Turns out Karen's done this before in other neighborhoods." I blinked. Wait, this isn't her first HOA dictatorship. He grinned. "Oh no, this is her third. And this time, she's going to be barred from ever serving on an HOA board again." Karen had been dethroned, muzzled by court order, and banned from HOA business like she was on some kind of community watch list which, ironically, she used to run. But if you know anything about a true HOA Karen, it's this: they never go down quietly. Nathaniel's tip about her past HOA escapades sent me down a rabbit hole. Turns out, Karen had a trail of HOA drama stretching across 3 counties. She'd been booted from one neighborhood for fining a man because his mailbox was too cheerful. Another time, she tried to ban wind chimes because she claimed they summoned unruly birds, legitimately. That was on a city complaint form. But the real gold mine? An HOA in Brookdale where she'd been accused of embezzling HOA funds. It was never proven, but a formal inquiry forced her to resign and relocate for personal reasons. Guess where she relocated? Yeah, us. Nathaniel gathered it all up and filed a formal grievance with the state HOA Regulatory Commission. Karen's pattern wasn't just annoying, it was dangerous. Abuse of authority, intimidation tactics, and likely misuse of community funds. The commission took it seriously. Within a month, Karen received a notice that her HOA certification and eligibility to serve on any board in the state were officially revoked. She could no longer hold any position of authority in any registered HOA community. Ever. It was poetic. The woman who once wielded petty fines like a sword had now been banished from the very world she ruled. But we weren't done. Because remember that social media slander? Nathaniel had filed a civil defamation suit, and after Karen ignored the mediation request, the court ruled in my favor by default. She owed me $5,000 in damages. She tried to appeal. It got tossed in 2 minutes. When the sheriff delivered the official notice to her door, I was sipping lemonade on my porch. Karen came out in her signature bathrobe, took one look at the envelope, and dropped it like it was radioactive. The neighborhood, once afraid to even blink in her direction, now fully rallied behind me. Doris from the HOA board brought me cookies and whispered, "Between you and me, watching her get served was the best entertainment I've had since Netflix raised its prices." And just when I thought the story had peaked, Karen sold her house. Word got out she moved to a condo downtown, one with no HOA. Legend has it she tried to form one with the other tenants and got promptly laughed out of the group chat. As for me, I threw the loudest, most obnoxious housewarming party the neighborhood had ever seen. We had a DJ, a taco truck, fireworks, the works. And taped to the front of my speaker system was a framed copy of the court order. Karen Whitmore is hereby prohibited from making any complaints regarding noise, nuisance, or HOA violations pertaining to Mr. Reyes or his residence. Poetic justice. Perfect silence. And the sweetest victory of all? She's gone. And now, the only fine I care about is the one on my new sound system. Like and subscribe for more videos like this.